my fly shoes on. Stepping out in my best self-esteem. No, I'm not a size 3, but I'm still happy. Don't listen to what haters say. Just let my inner beauty shine all up in their face. Girls, it's time to take a stand. Don't realize it, but we got the power in our hands. So all my girls around the world, raise your hands if you're a glamour girl. Don't matter who you are, who you're with, you're glamorous. All my ladies feeling glamorous. Glamorous. All my ladies feeling glamorous.
So we are back on the Brandee J show with my beautiful women for the State of the Black Women Roundtable, which, I like this setting. We are at Open Hearts Leaders headquarters for Lady A. April, yes, like a table, you doing big things. But we have Lady A to the left of me. So I want you guys to do a quick introduction to her guests, just in case we have people tuning in for this episode. So we'll start with Lady A.
Lady A, media mogul, also entrepreneur, and just a black excellent lady.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Marshawn Oladio, and I am a life and relationship strategist.
Hello, my name is Laline French, and I'm your favorite personal development and career life coach.
How you doing? Tanya McKenzie, your audacious author, advocate, and PR consultant.
So the first episode we were talking about colorism. Yes. And we could still be talking about colorism because that episode was getting so deep. And I do want to go back to it, but I do want to start off with a new topic regarding competition among Black women. Where did it start from? And why does it still exist in 2019?
This wouldn't be the first time you've heard the term crab in a barrel.
Yes.
Right? And historically, it started around slavery times when we could actually go back to colorism when they played the darker
lighter
against the lighter. So we do still suffer from some of those historical competitive edges that were placed upon us by people outside of us. And I do think that that's something we still suffer from today.
I think that's true. I think the standards that are set for Black women who compete are not gauged by our own metric system, right? Mm-hmm. We try to, pan out a scale based on what society tells us and who's the majority of society that deems what's high in fashion, what's the standard for cars, what's the living standard, what all these standards that are never set by us, yet we strive and compete to be accepted, to still not be accepted. So it kind of causes, I wouldn't even say crab in a barrel, I call it process of elimination, because we're the only culture I think we fight till the actual death of us. Mm-hmm. Whereas in others that might deem others less worthy, you gotta move over there and that's it. We fight to the death of us. Ours doesn't have a cap. We don't, I lost this fight, she wanted to hear about it on that. No, we don't end it there. I'm gonna go burn down her building. I'm gonna make sure I damage and ruin her. And I think it's because the damage that's done at the core of us as men and women in society as Black people who are natural givers. Our natural capability to create things is so marvelous.
Yes.
A lot of the things that are created or done are the things that set the tone for other cultures they take from because us. They have the collateral to keep things going, or they have the base or the funding to take it to the next level, right. Even though we're the brainchild. So I think amongst us, we have a mentality that we're seeking for someone to see us do it better.
And that's where it comes, if someone, for example, is doing something, let me see how I can outshine her. Versus let me collaborate with her. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing, I know you and I have had those discussions, you and I have had this discussions, and that's one thing that for so long made me stay away from Black women. Growing up, I just didn't feel accepted. I feel like this is too much, like it should not be like this. But then I got to the point where I was not really socializing with Black women. I felt like something was missing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I felt like the other women couldn't really relate to me. and I just always felt out of place. So when I got to the point, I said, okay, just because I had bad experiences, and my first bad experiences came from my sisters. So I always felt like if my sisters can do these things to me, oh, then the next person can do anything to me as well. So that was, because you know how they always say like your first relationship, you know, is with your sisters, is with your mother, is with your father.
Yeah.
So mine were not great with my sisters, to the point to this day I don't speak to them. So it really just hindered me on having relationships with Black women that I steered away from.
I think I've been a little more solutions based because I come from a pretty large family down south. My grandfather, there was 17 of them. Many of them wound up in California. And the example that they set was to reach back. So we're from Mississippi. Some would go to California. They would make their way, and then they would reach back to their siblings and bring them or their family to California. And let me tell you, they've done well. So in a society at whole where you see this competitive edge and people feeling like they have to knock down someone in order for them to shine, I was always trying to find out, why do they feel like it has to be that way? What can I utilize from my upbringing to try to make ends with not just other Black women in general? Because we are always the ones that are being pushed aside. We are always the ones that have to stand behind a man. So why is it that in a family such as mine, traditionally, they can do this and make it work? And don't get me wrong, they'll fight to the end of the day, right? They'll, you know how we get, the family reunion. But at the end of the day, my sister needs this to be able to move her family here and do better. And being able to see that as an example, always look for ways that we could mend bridges. Because it's not, like you said, when you don't have it, you feel that void.
I felt that void.
Right.
And like,
I too.
And that's why to this day, like for example, April's my sister, Leileen's my sister. And that to me, when I call you my sister, it means you are my sister.
Right.
Because I never had that. So when I say you are my sister, it's me like, okay, now I feel like I'm at the point where I have relationships, healthy relationships with Black women. For so long I didn't have it. That kept me away. And like the competition, like I've always been like, what's for you is for you.
Right.
That is not for me, but not everyone thinks like me. But how do we help the younger generation who are in competition, who think doing the twerk videos is competition? I have to outdo her. I have to outdo this. Oh, I have to do this to my face to make it look like that. Because the younger generation is suffering. So because I feel like they're suffering because our generation is still dealing with the competition.
Well, I think it's. Oh,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think that it starts with conversations like this. We have to be the example for the next generation coming up and just give them something to see as positive. And, oh, I can get along with my sister. I don't have to be in competition with her. So our generation does have to be the example for the younger generation. Just give them something positive to see.
Leilene, what are you going to say?
I think you asked the question where competition comes from. I think it comes from a means of survival when it comes to African American people. To piggyback off of what April said, I think when you look at history, we're not given a lot of opportunity. We're not on the same playing field as a lot of others. So when you come from that type of scarcity and you want to survive, it's like eat or die, sink or swim.
Yeah.
So a lot of people come from that type of mentality, but I also want to play the other side of the coin, and because I wrote an article on competition and how women should view it. Competition doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. When you look at Vanessa and Serena Williams, they're both great at what they do. But there's nothing wrong with competition. It's just how you view it. The boundaries, is it healthy competition? I think when we have these conversations with young people, I think that we shouldn't necessarily change the narrative from competition to collaborating, but understanding the confinement of healthy competition. There's nothing wrong with two women being in the same field, dominating their space. and learning from one another. You doing what you do, but I can still take some of the tools you do and make myself better. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just how you view it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's also us allowing ourselves to be vulnerable
Yes.
and honest. So when things don't work out, I feel okay saying, you know what, that hurt me that I couldn't level up like you did. Can you help me? And respecting someone's honesty and saying, I fell short, and also acknowledging how you feel about your falling short.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in myself for this. But we have such a hard time being honest about how we feel, about our situation, how we feel about our failures, and sometimes even how we feel about our wins. We don't even celebrate ourselves the way that we should. So when we're out there winning, we don't sit there, we don't celebrate each other. Sometimes we don't celebrate ourselves. We always stand back and we're the most humble. We do great things. I tell my sisters all the time, and I mean all of my sisters, you out there doing amazing things. Why doesn't anybody know about it? That's one of the reasons I got into PR. For me, that is celebrating your wins. That is celebrating your greatness. How will somebody know what you are out there doing, Lady A, if we're not celebrating it? Not just you celebrating it, but we should also be celebrating it. So I think we fall short a little bit in regards to just that vulnerability.
I agree, because I
and that
know
honesty.
when I accomplish something, there's a couple people who I tell that I'm in my mind like, well, should I tell them?
Right.
Because are they going to say, well, she's gloating?
Right.
Or things like that. But I'm just really excited about this win I got. And there's only a certain people that I text that I will say, oh, guess what? I just locked in this. But I just want to share with everyone because it's hard work.
It is.
And it's not easy. And when you get these wins, I want to be able to celebrate it with my sisters, but not in my, it's in my head.
Yes.
Thinking, am I putting it in their face or something like that? And to go back to what you said regarding the failure, like I always tell the story when I had my radio show and I was talking to Lady A about it, my heart wasn't in it. But I have a problem of giving. I was like, I'm not going to give up. That's just me. And we had that hard conversation. And she said, Brandee, if your heart's not in it, you need to stop doing it. And I was looking at it as a failure.
Right. And
And then she was like, you're doing a disservice to yourself, to the industry, and everyone around it. Don't do it if your heart's not in it. And I made that decision. I said, I'm done.
that honest conversation.
It was
Yeah.
but
I did come from a place of love,
Absolutely.
understanding when someone expresses the other end of me of being a life coach. When someone expresses what is the true matter of their heart, it's not my job to persuade them to do different or there. It's my job to help them come out with a proposable plan to execute it correctly for them to get what they need out of the situation, what they express. In regards, if you've expressed one view for me of your goals and your dream, but yet you're aligning yourself with other things that really don't affect your bottom line, I'm gonna be honest and say, what does this have to do with this?
Right.
So where she looked at something as being a failure, I'm saying, but you're dominating in this area. Let's cultivate this area and make this area better. And we had a few conversations after that, and a long one on the phone one night. And I had to tell her, sis, can I be real with you? As sometimes as women, I do it myself too. We don't try to become the masters at one thing before we move on to others. Even though those other gifts are inside of us, we don't try to cultivate this gift first. Let me master this. I want to be a hairstylist. I want to be a baker, and I want to, build tables.
Right.
I'm gonna build tables, do a little hair on the side, and do that. How about let me get my cosmetology license? Let me build a brand, and everybody knows me as a hairstylist. Now that I've mastered that, that's income. Next, I'm gonna move on. Let me build these tables. You guys see, I can build you office tables. I can build you that. Now that I got that, another stream of income. Now I'm the master of two things. Next, baking. Now I have the stream of income and revenue coming in to support all my goals and all the gifts and talents within me. I just didn't want her to burn out on something that really wasn't her passion.
But where does this is what I want to pose the question to each and every one of you ladies is, where does the line draw? You mentioned vulnerability and sharing that, but where does that line draw? Because at some instance, there are some sisters who, when it comes to competition, you have to be able to say, okay, I've got to still be myself. I still got to be able to thrive and survive and be my very best self. But I can't I can't do the homework for you. You know what I'm saying? So yes, encouragement only goes so far amongst women. So at some point in time, you've got to say, okay, I am my sister's keeper, but at the same time, it's a healthy median. I have to still be able to say, okay, well, you're going to have to do this homework when it comes to vulnerability, and you're going to have to do this yourself. I can't carry you while I'm trying to reach my successes. Example, for so long, I held myself back because I didn't want to be deemed as, from my other girlfriends, as, oh, wow, she thinks she all that. She's trying to do more than, this and this and this. And those types of ideologies kind of held me back from being my greater self within my own family, within the Black community, because I was afraid that I would be ostracized simply because I was being my greater self. Mm-hmm. So there is a healthy median where it's like, yes, that vulnerability is true. Yes, being transparent and open. But then at some point, you've got to be able to say, this person, that's personal. That has nothing to do with me. Yes, you are vulnerable here. You have some honesty work you gotta work through. I get that, but I can take that baggage along with me and along my journey as well. Serena, when she's winning, she's not thinking about Vanessa and saying, girl, I know you probably having these insecurities and your vulnerabilities as your sister, and I'm your younger sister at that, and beating you. You know what I'm saying? I can't carry that. I have to go and be my best self still. Even in the midst of that insecurity, in the midst of your vulnerability. I hear you, sis. I'm there with you. But in the same token, I have to still be my greater self too.
I think it has to do with the women you have around you. For me, I had the wrong women around me. That if I felt like I was doing something outshining them, they always had something to say, or I really couldn't perform at my best level. So I had to cut ties. And now that I've gotten older and more mature, I align myself with women who, if I see an insecurity in you that I can't be myself, I can't have you in my life. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to dumb myself down. I'm not going to not be Brandee because you can't handle. I know I'm a lot. And I tell people this all the time. This is a whole lot. I'm a handful in a nutshell. I know who I am. I know everything about myself. But I can't have women in my life who don't accept that. And for so long, I had women who saw me as being extra dramatic, as this. It was always something negative, to the point that I said, I am extra. I am a little bit dramatic. And your point, and if you can accept that, I can't be in your life. Right. Because this is who I am. I know Lady A is loud, but that's who she is. I think it's funny as hell sometimes. That's just me. And, but I have to accept her just like I have to accept each and every one of you. Who am I to tell Tanya, girl, that ain't my place? Mm-hmm. And it's having the right women around you. And some people I was friends with these women since I was teenagers. And I had to cut them off of I had to.
But I just want to double down on that and say, and that also includes family.
Yes.
Those are the first two.
These are all learned habits. Just like Brandee said earlier, some of her earliest relationships, earliest best friends, earliest connections are your family. Mm-hmm. Those are also learned traits, and we have to unteach ourselves these habits. Yes. So vulnerability is one thing. The vulnerability is just me being able to be honest with you about what I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you carry it for me. You can't fix my problems for me. But it does mean that as my friend or my sister or my cousin or whatever, my best friend, I should be able to say, I'm upset that I didn't accomplish this. You can't fix it. Yeah.
You don't necessarily.
You can't fix it for me.
You don't even necessarily have to go to that person and say, hey, this is vulnerable. You got to go within yourself. Be real with yourself.
That's true. But the question was, where did the level of competitiveness come from? And part of that is not being able to have honest conversations. And holding that stuff
but in. You can't have an honest conversation if you're not vulnerable with you first. You gotta get in connection with yourself.
Absolutely.
When Brandee says she's at a place where she is accepting of everybody, she had to first accept herself.
Absolutely.
And say, you know what? I am loud. Absolutely. I am extra. I'm a little rambunctious. This is who I am. And when you come into the essence of fully understanding who you are, you're able to accept everybody else because I know who I am.
But what good does that do if you are in a group of women and you can't be honest out loud?
You can do that after you come into understanding yourself first.
It takes both.
It
You have to be able
does.
to
It
do
does
both.
take both. I get what you're saying, but it resonates with you first.
Absolutely.
You can't do anything outside of that unless there is a full understanding. Okay, this is who I am. These are my strengths. Having more self-awareness of yourself, and then coming into incorporating other people outside of that.
Sometimes you have to have with my partners, for dealing with what I deal with and dealing with what we deal with every day, we make sure we check in with each other.
Yes.
We call it
Yes.
dumping session.
Yes.
And some days I'll go
Yes.
sit on one of their couches and be like, I need to dump. And they be like, what's up? I don't know. I'm feeling like I ain't really
feeling
doing
some
so
kind of
well
way.
with clients. And this week it's just been rough. And of course, because we all work in the same environment, we see each other. So we know, right? Perfect example. There's been a situation that it's just, I don't know why, it's just been irritating me. And I have been really just hard on myself. And one of my partners sat me down, her being her therapist self, and she said, come sit in the seat. And I said, no. Why? Come sit in my chair, girl. I said, okay. She said, has anybody ever told you you may have certain traits of codependency? And I said, girl, no. So I'm Googling. Did you just call me on my name? Like, what you trying to say to me, girl? Right? But I wasn't offended because I understand her place coming out of love. And being my business partner, we all have to make sure we exercise our rights of accountability, but making sure we're all mentally okay.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
So for her, she saw her partner spiraling.
Yes.
She said,
Yes.
No.
you came in late, number one.
Your
You
attitude.
never, even my client was like, you want to reschedule? Are you okay? I'm like,
Client checking in with you.
right,
But
some type of way.
so we can do this on another
day. I'm telling you,
I
like,
can do something.
that let me know that, okay. So when she explained that, and I was like, well, no, I don't feel I'm codependent. Like, I don't need, there. And she said, okay, now we're in session. She gets up, she closes the door. I said, okay, that's fine, right? And she goes, a little girl, you felt inadequate. A little girl, you felt like you always had to do much more and much better than everybody. You never got the recognition that was deserved. She said, so therefore that goes back to that celebrating yourself. She said, you never celebrate yourself because nobody ever celebrated you. So she stood up in the middle of her office and she said, "Friend, you like a bomb. You are so great." I mean, when I say I broke down whatever barrier, I'm crying thinking about it. She broke me, but in a good way.
Right.
And I was just sitting there, and she was like, that's okay, take it, because I'm not going to stop. She's like, I watched you
I'm
excel.
realizing that I do need this because I guess for me, I'm such a.
Girl,
I needed that
I'm
lesson
telling you.
because for me, I'm such a self-motivated type of person because I've had to be. That I don't really, I connect with you, but I really don't. And you get what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all understand that. Like, I have relationships, but to an extent. You know me to an extent of what I want you to know. And I still have that wall
So
up
we're
to
going to go
this
back
day.
to that level of vulnerability.
Yep.
That just means that she's showing you, as strong as she is, she had to trust somebody outside of herself to understand and accept whatever was going on with her. It doesn't mean her therapist is going to carry it. It just means she trusts that person, that friend, that coworker, that she can be vulnerable with them. Not only was she honest, and she allowed her to be honest, she broke down and cried. We hold that stuff in so much. So that level of vulnerability is, you can acknowledge what you want all day long, but sometimes you have to have those people outside of you to be able to just talk to and release.
Sometimes it's not talking. There are days that I walk in that office and I know some of the clients that my partners deal with. It could be, we can tell what type of energy we're getting ready to do it by the clothes we wear.
Yes.
If I see my partner wear all black, I know she probably got a few little spicy
things.
They borderline coming in, and sure enough, them the ones that come in. Is she here? And I'm like, something, some water. I do. Actually,
Like,
I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette.
Right.
But I know
The
they
energy.
know when
Right.
I'm dealing with certain kind of clients because I may come in with the Jordans and the jeans and the hoodie. Like, He may go down in here today. I'm letting y'all know. And what happened the day that I did, it went down.
Right, of course.
My client lost his little mind. And before I would allow him to position himself for me to hurt him and him to hurt someone else, let's just call the police. Let's just get them here to mediate. Because clearly you're not agreeing with the standards of what this court-appointed paperwork is saying. But even when the police got here, the first thing that older gentleman said, he said, I respect you so much. He said, because your ability to be calm helped this young man to be calm. And they ended up not having to take him to jail, but just the presence of him was able to de-escalate this young man. Okay, now I know Miss A is serious and she will call the police on me. You know what I mean?
But that goes to being able to be vulnerable.
Right.
Because
Hey.
honestly, like, if it was me a couple years ago, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, oh, this is what my ex-husband did. Right. I would have held that in. And I would have had a broke down moment in my room.
Oh, let me add this one word. Non-judgmental.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
be in a non-judgmental
Judgmental.
zone.
Yeah.
Just because you are going through something or you allow yourself to be vulnerable does not allow them the opportunity to be
judge you.
judgmental. But that again has to do with the circle that you surround yourself with.
Yes.
My mom taught me a long time ago. I didn't like her friends. She always had these ragamuffin friends around. And I was upset. I was like, why do you always got these flea bags running around here? And she slapped the black off my face. Because she said, you cannot judge other people. You don't even know what they're going through. What you do is decide, is this somebody I'm going to deal with? Knowing who they are, knowing their shortcomings, knowing what they bring to the table, or you're not. But what you're not going to do is judge people. You choose who you're going to be around. You choose who gets to be around you, who you're going to be honest and vulnerable around, or not.
This year, I position all. This year is the year of greatness, and I
Amen.
told all my clients that. I say this.
But we have to take a break. I'm sorry. We have commercials and bills to pay. But this is
You
part.
started this.
I know I did. Yes, I'm on. Yes, I did, Tanya. But this is part 2. We're going to take a break, and then our next episode will be part 3. So thank you guys for tuning in on this episode. So we'll see you guys next week on part 3 on the
right.
Brandee J Talk Show.